Hello, my name is Maggie Rose Cunningham, and today I'm going to be talking to you about calculating your birth runes, and specifically 13 of your birth runes. There is a separate video about the Nornir's gift, which is your birth hour, which is calculated in a different way. But the rest of your birth runes are calculated based on the movements of the planets through the runic wheel. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But before we do that, I want to raise my drinking horn, and I'm going to do a little bit of a toast. Here we go. Wunyo! Have a little bit of a drink. Because I have just finished in this month, I'm doing this video, a 7-year project. It's taken me 7 years to complete this project. And this project is highly relevant to what we're going to be discussing today. So I will tell you a little bit more about that at the end of the video. And I hope that you will celebrate with me as well, because it has been a long, very exciting, very hard working 7 years. But before we do that, let's talk about calculating your birth runes. So I'm working on the assumption that you already know a little bit about your birth runes, that you've been on the website. You know that there are 14 of them. You know that the planets in our solar system are assigned to deities within the Northern tradition. And the core of that work comes from Nigel Penny. That's my primary source. I have tweaked it just a little bit and made some changes, and things like the North and South Node, which I work with, aren't present in his work, for example. So there are some things that I've changed, but that's where this work comes from. One of my clients said to me, it was just last week, she said, the zodiac tells me about me, about who I am. But the birth runes tell me about all of the shadows and the hidden places and the magic that's been lost. For me, the birth runes facilitate our journey into wholeness. They're guides and supports and energies for us as we take our journey into our most expressed, most fulfilled selves. And they do take us on journeys into shadow. They do take us on journeys that can be challenging, because they want us to expand out into our fullest potential. So they are different to the zodiac. We might think about them as being personal soul guides. So, as I have said, you have 13 runes that are calculated using the planetary movements. And you might be expecting, I can go and I can look up online, birth runes, runic astrology, etc., that you will find something where you can put in your birth details, your time of your birth, the location of your birth, and it will just pop out for you. A little bit like, hold on, and I will share with you. A little bit like this. Here we go. So this is AstroSeek, which is one of my favorite resources. And we get something that looks like this. And what this does is it shows us we've got the planets here. So here's the sun down here. We've got the constellations of the zodiac around the outside. And so we can see the position of each of the planets, and it's given in degrees. If you think about this as being, there are 360 degrees within the circle, and each of these chunks is 30 degrees. So our zodiac is divided up into 30-degree sections, so that we have the ecliptic wheel, which is the perceived motion of the sun, the planets around the sun from the position of the earth, known as the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is divided up into these 12 sections, and each of them is 30 degrees. So we might say, well, what I'm expecting to see is a lovely, it's, instead of the zodiac around here, we're going to have the runes, and I'm going to see each of the planets in that place. But that technology does not exist yet, much to my sadness. When I started out on my first birth runes journey, and I looked it up and I realized it's not there, it's not out there. One day it would be wonderful if it could be. So I realized that I was going to have to calculate these myself. So over the time, I have developed various templates and systems for working with this. You'll see some of those in my self-discovery kit on Sooner Starwell if you want to do this for yourself. Now I work with quite a lot of Excel spreadsheets, let's say, and people in my team use them as well, so that it helps us to stop the human error of translating the position of the planets from the zodiac into the birth runes, into the system of runic astrology, is essentially what we are doing. So I'm going to explain to you how this is done, so that if you are mathematically minded, you can do this for yourself, or you can do it with some support through the Soonest Star Wheel self-discovery kit, or you can come and you can have your birth runes report done by us. Either way is fine. But essentially what you will do is you need to work on the assumption that the runes are positioned around this wheel, but in a very different way. So there is, in the center of each of the signs of the zodiac, there is one of the runes, and then spanning across the edges of each of the signs is another rune, so that you end up with 3 runes in each sign of the zodiac. So we need to be able to record them, and the way that we need to be able to calculate them. And the way that this is done is that each birth rune takes up the point between them. Instead of it being 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 0 degrees, 30 degrees, it's 7.5 degrees on that 30-degree edge, and then 22.5. So if you imagine we've got 7.5 here, that's the beginning of one rune. Then we get to 22.5. That's the beginning of the next rune. So we've got 1 in the middle, then we've got 1 on one half, and then we've got 1 on the other. And that's how this is done. So you can see on my website, I've provided for you what rune is associated with which sign in the zodiac, sort of how they work. And in the Soonest Star Wheel, the self-discovery kit, I do that with all of the degrees as well. So you can see each degree, and you can then work out, you can say, okay, so if my sun is 641 Virgo, I can find it down there, 641 Virgo. So it is sitting within the window, between 7.5 and 22.5 first, and then 7.5 at the end. It's before 7.5, so it's going to be sitting in the middle. I can find it there, and I can work out what the rune is. Now, that might sound complicated. That's why I created a template in order to do it, and lots of tables and things like that. But that's essentially how it works. So if you're mathematically minded and you know where they all sit, and you can use my website to find out which rune is associated with each of the symbols, then you can absolutely do that. Obviously, I now work with all of my Excel spreadsheets to do that. And so what you will end up with if you come and you have a birth runes report done with me doesn't look like this chart, because we don't have all of the fancy calculating software that's doing it. It's being done by a person using Excel spreadsheets. So what you will get instead when you get your birth runes report looks more like this. Bear with me one moment, and I'll bring up that bit on the screen for you. Okay, so it looks like this table here. And you will see that you have got your runes, your first thread, which is the equivalent of your ascendant. This in this example is Ingu's. It gives you the halls. The halls are associated with zodiac. So you can see like which hall is associated with Thrumheim. You can see, okay. And it also gives you the hearth, which I'm not going to cover here today. That's similar to the houses or the mansions, but we work with the hearths of the AC Muir. And it takes you through each one. You can see that this particular person, they have Soonest Chariot in Ewaz, but it was only just, it was coming out of Bacano. So we say that no, it was a little cusp from Bacano. So that can influence a reading that you do when you have your birth runes reading. And then again, the hall and the hearth. And it takes you through each of your runes. Now, coming back to the 7-year project. So it's all well and good me saying, here is a lovely table that takes you through your birth runes. But obviously the birth runes are not nearly as well known as the signs of the zodiac or the meanings of the planets in the Hellenic named tradition. I say Hellenic, Latin, the Roman named tradition. So what I have been working on for the last 7 years is with each of my clients, as I do their readings, I've been recording and creating reports for them based on what does the first thread in Ingu's actually mean? What does it actually mean? And so when you go through and you have your report done, you will get a text, a written piece of text that tells you about what does this mean? How can you work with the rune? What are going to be the likely positive things? What are the things that you might need to look out for in relation to each of the first 6 of the runes I do in depth, and the final 7 when we get down to the rest of the planets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Apologies, 8. When we get down to the other planets, then it's a little bit less text, but it's still there. You can be working with your runes on those as well. So the last 7 years, I have been generating that text, and this month are finished. I've now got a template, text, description, like meanings for every single connotation of each of the 24 runes and each of the different positions with that particular hall. And it has been a labor of love, and those have been changed and tweaked over time as I've worked with different clients to develop these reports, and then sat down with them and gone through them and done oracle work with them as well. So you can absolutely calculate your birth runes, and you can follow along with all of the work that I do on runic astrology, and you can get absolutely a star wheel to support you in that, resonating not only with the runes but with the planets, and start to really work in depth with your birth runes. You can also get your birth runes reports. It's a 24-page report that will give you your table, and it will then take you through what that table means for you and how you can work with your birth runes to support you as soul guides on your heroic path.